full name?
I'm Jeffrey Edward Epstein, and my residence address is 6100 Red Hook Boulevard in Virgin Islands.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of What Really Happened. Today I want to talk about Jeffrey Epstein, the man who didn't kill himself. Born in 1953, Epstein had quite a normal childhood, working parents, going to school, having siblings, stuff like that. At the age of 18, Epstein attended the Courant Institute of Mathematical Sciences at New York University, but left without a degree in June 1974. Now, this case story is quite convoluted and full of remarkable coincidences. You'll see what I'm talking about. In September 1974, the same year he dropped out of college, Epstein was hired as a physics and mathematics teacher at the Dalton Private School by Donald Barr, who was the principal of the school at the time. It wasn't long before Jeff was accused of stalking teenage female students, and there were multiple complaints from parents and pupils regarding this. Jeff was eventually fired in 1976, but so was Donald, for hiring an unqualified teacher like Jeff and not sacking him sooner.
Fucking useless sack of shit! Get out! Get out!
Did I mention that Donald Barr was also the author of a science fiction book about aliens that kidnap humans for sex trafficking? Moving on, sometime later in 1976, Jeff got a job as a low-level junior assistant to a floor trader on Wall Street. Though it's not clear how, his mathematical genius made him rise up the Wall Street ranks very fast. And in just 4 years, he became a very rich multi-millionaire. It's also around this time that he met Donald Trump. Birds of a feather.
How old were you when you first went over there?
If it was 2 years ago, I was 16.
When you first went to give a massage, it was just a massage?
Just a massage.
As you continued to go, did it escalate more?
It escalated whenever he wanted. I said no for a very long time. I wouldn't let him put anything inside of me, and then one day he just did. So I didn't know what to think, and I don't know how to, I'm sorry.
Take a deep breath.
Fast forward to the early 2000s, Jeff was indicted in Florida for sexual encounters with underage girls. The first in very, very many cases against Epstein began in 2005, when a woman contacted Florida's Palm Beach Police Department and reported Epstein for paying $300 to a 14-year-old daughter to strip and massage him. The Palm Beach prosecutor in charge of this case was accused of being too lenient.
I rest my case.
Which led to the involvement of the FBI. It wasn't long before it was discovered that Epstein was in the habit of paying girls to perform sexual acts on him, most of whom were underage, the youngest being 14 years old and majority of them ranging between 15 and 17. Also, a police search of Epstein's home found 2 hidden cameras and many photos of girls throughout his house, some of whom the police had interviewed during the investigation. In 2018, an expose by Julie Brown published in the Miami Herald contained allegations that one time a trio of 12-year-old triplets were flown in from France for Epstein's birthday. They were then flown back the next day after being sexually abused by Epstein. The investigation also revealed that young girls were recruited from Brazil and other South American countries, former Soviet countries and Europe. A popular French modeling agency was also supplying girls to Epstein. Here are a few points to note from this chapter. During the 2000s, Jeff was seen multiple times with the likes of Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew. Flight records viewed by NBC News showed that Clinton flew on one of Epstein's planes several times. In 2001, there was a claim against Prince Andrew that he was seen at the Trump nightclub with one of Epstein's victims. He denied the claims. Also, the picture you're seeing right now is one of Prince Andrew with an alleged Epstein victim, Virginia Giuffre, who was 17 at the time. The picture was taken at Ghislaine Maxwell's home. In a 2002 interview with New York Magazine, this is what Donald Trump had to say about Epstein. "I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it. Jeffrey enjoys his social life." In 2007, the US Attorney for the Southern District of Florida agreed to a plea deal which resulted in a non-prosecution agreement. This agreement essentially shut down an ongoing FBI investigation into whether there were more victims and other powerful people who took part in Epstein's crimes. The deal was also kept from the victims. Acosta, the then US attorney, later said he offered the plea deal because he was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and was above his pay grade. On June 30th, 2008, Epstein pleaded guilty to one of 2 charges of procuring a girl below 18 years for prostitution. Under normal circumstances, such offenses carry a jail term of 20 years in a state prison. But for Epstein, he got 18 months and was housed in a private wing of the Palm Beach County Stockade. But it doesn't end there. 3.5 months after his sentence, Epstein was allowed to leave jail on work release for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Work release basically means that a prisoner is sufficiently trusted to go out of prison and work at a place of employment and return when their shift is complete. It's also worth knowing, the county sheriff's policy requires a maximum remaining sentence of 10 months before being eligible for this privilege, and sex offenders are ineligible. Still on this, Epstein's cell door was always left unlocked, and he had access to the attorney room, where a television was installed for him. As for the work he did, well, he worked at the office of a foundation he had created shortly before reporting to jail, and he dissolved the foundation immediately after serving his time. After serving 13 months, Epstein was released on a year of probation on house arrest until August 2010. During this time, he was allowed numerous trips on his corporate jet to his residences in Manhattan and the US Virgin Islands. A few points to note from this chapter. One of Epstein's attorneys during his trial also represented Donald Trump during his impeachment trial. Remember Donald Barr, the guy who first hired Epstein at the private school? Well, his son William Barr also worked at the same law firm representing Epstein, but apparently he wasn't involved with Jeff. Small world indeed. After Epstein's conviction, Trump said he banned him from his properties and cut any contact with him. Epstein, however, still had Trump's number on his phone 10 years later.
Yeah, a long time ago. I'd say maybe 15 years. I was not a fan of his. That I can tell you. I was not a fan of his. So
Now, this is the final chapter in which Epstein doesn't kill himself, and it's also where I ask you to support the channel by subscribing. Moving on, the non-prosecution agreement that now protects Epstein from further prosecution. Well, there's a limit to its power. The agreement only applies to crimes committed by Epstein in the Miami area, including Palm Beach. However, if he was alleged to have committed crimes in other parts of the country, the agreement will no longer protect him. New York 2019. One of Epstein's previous victims learns of his light sentence, and she isn't very happy about it. She eventually gets some press coverage, which causes a relook at Epstein's case, and ultimately leads to his rearrest. So, Epstein is arrested and imprisoned in a federal facility in New York City, the Metropolitan Correctional Center. He is also denied bail. On July 23, 2019, Epstein is found unconscious in his jail cell, with injuries around his neck. Epstein believes he was attacked by his cellmate, who was awaiting trial for murder, while the correctional staff suspect attempted suicide. This led to him being placed on suicide watch, which he was taken out of 6 days later, and placed in a special housing unit with another cellmate, where a guard would look into every 30 minutes. Fast forward to August 9, 2019, Epstein's cellmate is transferred, and Epstein is left alone in his cell.
I'm in danger!
Later that night, the two guards assigned to monitor Epstein's cell every 30 minutes fall asleep, and the two cameras in front of Epstein's cell malfunction. You might as well tell us Epstein killed himself. Oh, wait. On August 10, 6:30 am, Epstein is discovered dead in his cell. Cause of death? Suicide by hanging. And that's pretty much the story of Epstein's life and death. But before I end this video, here are a few things to note. A lot of coincidences happened on the day Epstein died. Guards falling asleep and not visiting his cell. Surveillance malfunction. Epstein's cellmate being transferred. Also, it's worth knowing that on August 9, 2019, less than 24 hours before Epstein's death, 2,000 pages of previously sealed documents were released. Before the documents could be analyzed, an unnamed person asked the judge to permanently keep the documents secret, claiming unproven allegations of impropriety could damage his reputation. This unnamed person had no evidence that his name was in the document,